Hi, I'm Frank Ordaz. In this video, we're going to add a background to our prairie girl. And we're going to add some aspen. That tells the Western story. That aspen is just going to enhance it. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that's going to make the girl pop, and how that attention to detail will help you make a very dynamic portrait that people will want to buy. Come join me. Today, we're going to continue on this painting. I'm working with Blick's Belgian linen panel. I really like this panel. The oil paints just love that surface. Also, you'll see that I've primed the ground with a thin wash underpainting of raw sienna. I applied the oil paint with a bristle brush and also added some Winsor & Newton liquid. It's really great, but here's the trick. You have to let it dry overnight. Once you let it dry, then you can start adding some paint over it. And what's great about this underpainting technique is that if you apply the paint somewhat thin, here's a rule of thumb for oil paint: thin over thick. So if you apply the paint thinly, some of that underpainting will show through. It just ties the background with what you're doing. Start off thin. That way you're not totally committed to a color. Feel what you're doing. Here's another thing. When you're working with greens, you want to avoid using a green right out of the tube. Now, to create this green, if you're a beginner or even intermediate, a good rule of thumb is try something like sap green. Sap green is kind of an organic green. It has a lot of warmth in it. But you just don't want to just use sap green and add white to it or anything else to it. You want to add some variation. So I add some of the warmth. In this case, a little bit more raw sienna to the bottom part of the green, and to the top part of the green, part that's closer to the sky, I'll add some of the blue from the sky. The blue that I'm going to add for this painting is a cobalt cerulean. It's a new Utrecht color, and I love it. I'm just suggesting now the feeling of the leaves of the aspen. I'm not trying to create so much detail so that you're impressed with my skills as a renderer. I want you to just feel the rustling of those leaves. I want to have your eye and your total focus go to the girl. What's important about that is the portrait is the main thing. That is your main focus. So everything that I'm doing here is to enhance the attractiveness of this prairie girl. Now, another thing that's important is to avoid dirty color. A lot of my students say, how do I avoid getting color that's really dirty? And one way I do it, I use a separate brush just for the dark greens, another brush just for the blues, and then another brush or brushes for the very lemon yellow. I use the chromatic oil paints for this background painting. I love using cadmium yellow for that bright light. I also really like using colors that are going to enhance the overall feel of this Western painting. So as I progress, I'm thinking, how can I add elements that'll make the eye go back towards the face? So here I'm using a synthetic brush. I love these synthetic brushes because they really hold their edge. I'm going to have that some of those branches go towards the face. Again, separate your lights from your darks. And the reason why you want to do that is that you don't want everything to kind of blend together. You don't want things to just kind of become muddy. So take your time, enjoy the process. And again, don't overly commit with thick paint at the very beginning, because once you start using too much thick paint, then you feel like you're losing control, because then it becomes overly oily, and the best thing to do is just scrape it off with the palette knife and start over. Yeah, you could do that. You can start over. So as I progress now, I'm trying to create variation in the leaves. Again, you want to avoid just a green out of the tube. You want to add some warms and some cools, but don't look too much into the dark area, because what happens I see this with my students all the time. They look in the areas that are dark and they start making them lighter. And then they look at areas in the light and they start making those darker. So keep them separated. We're almost finished here, and I'm just enjoying the process. I'm suggesting the leaves. And so now your eye will go right to her. Wow, that was a lot of fun, and I hope you're inspired. We want you to be successful. So check it out. Get your brushes, your tubes of paint. I love Utrecht, so I hope you check them out if you've never used them before. You can see some of my work at boldbrush.com and at fazo.com under ordazart.com. See you down the road.